So as we think about the third grade writing MAISA units, I have with us Mary Johnson from Oak Ridge Upper Elementary to talk about the personal narrative work you'll be doing.
As you journey through the personal narrative unit in grade 3, you will be focusing on two components of personal narrative, which is unique to third grade compared to your second grade colleagues. Your first unit, Personal Narrative Unit 1, focuses on four major components, which include your writers using a writer's notebook to generate their ideas, learning strategies for writing effective personal narrative, and revising editing, and with eventually publishing their selected personal narrative. Whereas the second unit, Personal Narrative Writing with Fluency, continues on this same path or this journey with these four major concepts. In addition, they're asking the teacher to lift student writing. Combined, these two units will take your writers on a writing journey of approximately 7 weeks, 3 weeks for Unit 1 and 4 weeks for Unit 2. Let's take a peek at the personal narrative. As you journey through this unit, you'll want to make sure that you look at the Common Core Initiative, but we're going to go right to the unit, which is found at the end of this, Personal Narrative Grade 3. As you journey through the overview of the unit, you will want to take note of the materials to be provided and produced by the teacher. Additionally, the suggested mentor text to support your unit. Unit 1, you are working with picture books, and Unit 2, you are working through the text Because of Winn-Dixie. You want to be using these texts or other exemplar texts you have in your classroom to support and model the exemplar writing strategies required for the personal narrative. In the professional resource section, you will see resources listed from Lucy Calkins and her colleagues at the Teachers College. The original units are a nice resource to keep handy, but you will also want to look at her newly released Common Core Line materials, if possible, for the latest updates on checklists and rubrics. It will be up to you and your district to decide what you will use for your main source of assessment materials. Let's journey down and look at some of the things within your unit. A few tips for you to have. Here's a generalization about the two units of the personal narrative. Unit 1, the writer's focus will be on generating ideas through an introduction phase, whereas Unit 2, the expectation of the writer shifts to an angle of learning to create improved stories through pushing their thoughts and taking risk with their newly introduced writing strategies. It's imperative on these units to always read the cover page as highlighted here on your screen. Please read through these notes before beginning this unit, as they provide integral information for completing this unit with success. I want to give you a minute to look through the assessment piece, the resources and materials, and best practices. This provides a foundation needed to have a great understanding of the learning targets for your students. As you glance through the subheading assessment, there are some options suggested for you as a teacher to monitor your students' writing through pre- and post-assessment. On-demand writing assessment to provide you with a baseline of your students' knowledge. You may want to collaborate with your fellow colleagues on how you will choose to administer your on-demand pre- and post-assessments. There are a couple options mentioned here for you. The recommended writing goal by the end of Unit 2 is that a third grader should be writing approximately a page a day in school during their independent writing time. The writer is working towards refining their fluency and volume. You want to note that the writer's notebook is used by students to hold their generating ideas. And when you get through the rough draft stage, students move to writing a piece on the loose leaf paper. Using a personal narrative revision and editing checklist found on page 39. Let me give you a minute to go to page 39. It's on page 39 in Unit 1, and I also just want to note to you in Unit 2 it's found on page 54. You may want to look at this with your writers and have them focus one day on the revision phase of this, and on day 2 an editing phase, so that they can really be geared in and fixing their papers and developing them to their satisfaction. Using the personal narrative conferring checklist now found on page 41, this will allow you to guide your conferring, which is the heart of accelerating the learning of your writers. This also is found on page 53 in Unit 2. And it is the same, so it's a nice tool for you to use for Unit 1 and 2 so your students can see that they're working to achieve the same goals. Using the personal narrative assessment rubric found on page 42 and 43 of the unit, provide the learning targets. Anchor charts are embedded within the MAISA unit to use as a teacher resource tool as you are creating your anchor chart right in front of your students. This is crucial to have your students reference throughout their writing experience. They are a guide to help you. You may want to even condense the bullets to make them a little bit more kid-friendly. After having the foundation of the units, you will venture into the unit. The unit is divided into sections. Unit 1, there's 13 sessions, and Unit 2, there's 16 sessions. Helpful tips for teaching from the session. Always read through the session at least a day or two before teaching the unit to make sure that you have all the necessary tools for success. The notes of each session contain valuable insights in teaching your writers. As you venture into your session, the lesson, you will notice that there are 4 components of the mini lesson: introduction, demonstration, active engagement, and recap. When teaching each session, be sure to include all the parts of the mini lesson as they play a critical role, even the lesson closure, which is the share portion at the end of the session. A chance to share student writing, reemphasize a teaching point from observations made that day, etc. You and your district colleagues will want to decide whether or not you will want to conduct another on-demand assessment piece at the end of Unit 1 and/or after Unit 2. Enjoy your journey through these 2 units as you watch your writers develop their personal narrative and grow as writers.